All right, building your brand as a public speaker. Now, let me tell you an interesting story as to how public speaking became a part of my life. So the legend goes that at the age of 5, I stepped on stage. I still remember the talk that I gave. It was about an aeroplane, and I was 5 years old back in school in India, which is where I grew up. And since then, the speaking bug caught up on me, and I've never looked back. So, the joke in my family is that Priyanka is someone who's like, even in the middle of the night, you wake her up and she sees a stage or a mic, she would just love to talk and share anything and everything. So that's the kind of mindset I've always been in. But over a period of time, as I moved from India to US to pursue my education, I realized one of the key distinct factors that helped me grow in my career was the ability to communicate. So be it you could be a woman in business, irrespective of the gender. So you could be a person doing business or having a career or doing a mix of both. And then you realize you have an amazing product or you have an amazing project that you've built. But if you're unable to communicate it, share it to people in the right way, well, nobody takes note of it, right? Have you been in such situations? Give me a quick yes or no through the chat. Type in a quick yes or no where you felt, oh my goodness, I wish I could communicate better. I wish I was a good public speaker in order to help people understand the amazing product or the service that I'm offering. And let's see what we're finding in chat. Oh, I see a lot of yeses coming in. And this again comes from my own personal experience as well. As you're looking at building a career for yourself, initially you feel, okay, I need to get into this career, my dream role. But as you get into it, you feel public speaking just is such an important aspect of building your brand going forward. And you find opportunities knocking doors of people who put themselves out there with so much confidence, and they have huge engagement, followers, support. And you feel like, what am I doing here? I have a job, I have a title, but beyond that, nobody even recognizes me. And I have so much to share for the outside world. Now, let me give you an example. Today, I had an interesting event where Indra Nui, the former CEO of Pepsi, and Payal, who's the founder of a company called ClassPass. If you're part of the fitness arena, you know what ClassPass is. They both were talking about the importance of communication as a leader, especially for women leaders. You have a lot of challenges that you still have to overcome. And Nui shared a very important point where she spoke about how communication skills have really helped her grow her career. And that stems from a support system that she already had. So say, for example, every night at the dinner table, she had to debate on a topic. And she always says, put those debating skills when you're in the childhood stage. But for some of us, we aren't lucky, right? Because of the kind of environment that we grew, communication skills was more of an afterthought versus something that was given to us in a plate. But we made it work. Going forward, we want to make sure we have a little bit of structure around it so we could be better communicators and better speakers. Do you agree? Give me a quick yes in the chat. All right. Thank you, Shantia. Thank you, Jamila. Thank you, Sneha. Thank you, Angela. Awesome. So given that I've shared a lot of background and experience as to why communication skills, public speaking is very important, one of the other questions that always comes to your mind is, do you need a brand for yourself? And we're going to launch this quick poll over here. So you must be seeing the poll right now. Do you need a brand for yourself? I see a lot of yeses coming in. Still thinking, okay, we have some talk to do there. All right, I see a lot of positive yes. 92% of you say it's a yes, absolutely. You need a personal brand for yourself. So I agree with you. Hell yeah, we got to have a personal brand for ourselves. But what does it even mean? I've heard words like build an epic personal brand, a brand that shares what you do shares about you to the people, but I always had challenges saying, okay, how do I create a personal brand? I'm new to all of this. Where do I get started? Isn't that a question that pops up in all of our minds, right? So here's something that I wanted to share with you. Why is a personal brand important to you and what does it mean? Now, for me, there are key factors that help me position my personal brand. So let's see what they are. A personal brand helps you come across as someone who has knowledge on a specific topic, because at the end of the day, you want people to recognize your topic of experience based on just your name. Say, for example, Jamila. If you think about social media marketing, Jamila must be the name that should come to my mind within my sphere of influence. Say, for example, tech leadership, I would say Angela, say, for example, she needs to be the person who comes to my mind immediately as well. So it's very important for us to have a sphere of influence. It could be one or two core areas which really resonate with you. So people feel like, hey, there's an event maybe that I need someone, or there's a project where I need someone to be part of this. Your name should be like the immediate thing that should glow up in their mind. Credibility. You always look for people who are subject matter experts, right? You know that if somebody's saying this, say Misha says, this is how you run a product by women event, a product for women event. You know that the credibility that Misha brings, the trust that you all instill in her knowledge, that's super, super important, right? So it's always the knowledge, the credibility. Next comes building a personal narrative. Most of the time, I've been in these situations where I'm like, okay, I know I want to build a knowledgeable brand, a credible brand, but I really have no idea about my strengths. Like, do I even have a story to share? And how do I convert that into a personal brand? So this could be one of the key challenges, which we'll delve into as part of our framework that I'm going to share with you. Clarity. Having a personal brand gives you more clarity as to how you want to grow your career trajectory going forward. So for me, product management, that's where my passion lies. So I'm looking at building a personal brand around it. Hey, but there's another topic that's of interest to me, which is public speaking, storytelling, and how do you tell a story as a leader, as a tech leader. So it gives you clarity in the sense of the direction in which you could drive your personal brand. All right, are you guys with me? Give me a yes if you believe that there are ways in which you can structure your personal brand. It's a yes from Madhuri, yes from Emily, yes from Jamila. Angela says yes. All right. Now, the next question that comes to your mind is, what's holding you back? Okay, Priyanka, you might be like, you've pepped us up. Now we know that we need a personal brand. It helps us build our careers, build our businesses, our side hustles, our dream projects. But you know what? I'm still on the fence. There's something that's still holding me back. Now I need to figure that out for you guys. So in the chat, go ahead and type, what's one thing that's holding you back? Now that if I give you an amazing framework to get started, what will be an excuse that will give me right away? Type it in the chat for me. So what's something that will hold you back from creating a personal brand or embracing public speaking? Let's get to the root cause of it so that you have actionable takeaways that we can talk about. All right, fear of failure, anxiety. Farida says anxiety. Emily says fear of failure. Madhuri says fear of judgment. Sneha says very new to it, so feeling lost, and that's completely normal, Sneha. Rakia says excuses. Well, excuses is an excuse by itself, right? Jamila says lack of confidence. Angela says being clear and concise on presenting my brand. Absolutely, Angela. And as you create your personal brand, Albert is here as well. Again, he's another amazing personal branding expert, I should say. You should follow him on LinkedIn. One of the challenges is when you get started, when you put yourself out there, your personal brand might not be the right one. You're not going to get it right in your first shot. For me, my personal brand has evolved over the last 5 to 6 years as I pivot based on feedback I hear from people on how they see me, how they perceive me. And it's over a period of time, you will start to know what your personal brand is. But getting started is the key. And I'm so glad we're on the same path here. Now, so some of the common things that I see. Sure, Albert, happy to be part of, happy that you showed up here. So in terms of what's holding you back, these are common feelings. I want you to understand that you're not alone in this process. There are moments where even I feel, is my personal brand right? As a public speaking coach, as a product management leader. And these are common, feelings, emotions that we go through in terms of scared, feeling overwhelmed, feeling burnt, feeling I don't really know, I don't have a focus. So these are common things that you don't have to feel as roadblocks that's stopping you from achieving your personal brand. So let's normalize that. All right. And having said that, I know you're waiting with bated breath for this part of it. So let's talk about a framework. I call this, wait, I should let you guys guess. What does this remind you of? Type it in the chat for me. When you see this image, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? You guys are so clever. I see the answers coming in. All right, the rest of the team. I see Angela, Farida saying Pacman. Does anybody else have interesting perspectives on what this could be? All right, Pacman it is. It is Pacman, and I'm so glad you're part of the 90s kids generation, I guess, like me. So what does the Pacman do? Pacman traverses through the maze as it aces obstacles. So I would see this analogy in your career, in your business, in your dream hustle, where it's not a linear path, right? Success, your personal brand is not a linear path. You're going to face a lot of ups and downs, dips and highs and lows, but you're going to successfully traverse the maze and get to the end point, which is your personal brand. So let's get started. Are you excited about the Pacman philosophy? Come on, let's see who is interested so that we can unveil the different aspects of Pacman here for you. Let's see a yes in the chat. All right, I see a big yes from Misha. Who else wants to hear about the Pacman? Jamila, Shantia, Sneha, Angela, amazing. All right, so let's get to the Pacman. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to count Pacman, P-A-C-M-A-N. So there are 6 alphabets, and we have this framework where we're going to talk about each of these 6 alphabets. And I've crafted it as Pacman because this is something that you can remember easily. So this would be your key takeaway. If there's only one thing you want to listen throughout this session with me, let it be the Pacman. And I'm going to tell you this again and again. Take the Pacman with you whenever you have feelings of uncertainty, overwhelming feeling. I'll put it that way so it's easier to speak about. When you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling lost, this Pacman is a philosophy wherein it doesn't just apply to building your brand. These are stackable habits that you can use in your daily life to get to achieve success, to achieve incremental success as part of your life journey. I'm someone who always believes in, how do I put it? Philosophies, I should say. So this Pacman is a philosophy that's very close to me. And Sneha says, love these acronyms, so helpful. Right, Sneha? So this is part of the personal branding journey where I've learned that something that's easier to understand, like an acronym, sticks away easier with audiences. So let's get started. So P stands for personal highlight reel. And then I'm also going to give you a sneak peek as to what the other alphabet stands for. And you want to remember this, okay? A stands for act, C stands for collaborate, M stands for mindfulness, A stands for allies, N stands for now. All right, so that's the Pacman. And in the next few slides, I'm going to decipher each one of these Pacman elements. Personal highlight reel. So let me give you some context behind what's a personal highlight reel. Now, the first thing you would think as a personal highlight reel is if you want to be a public speaker, you usually have a highlight reel, right? Which you pitch to people, but this is not that. We'll get to that eventually. But as I mentioned, these are stackable habits where we're going to go through reflection before we get to the end point. So this is based on research by a professor called Don Cable, who's an organizational behavior professor at the London School of Economics or Business. So he wrote this book called Exceptional, where he talks about a philosophy called positive method. So basically, one of the key challenges we have when you're building your personal brand is, what are my strengths? What do people think about me? What are their perspectives? But how do we get that feedback? We've never really taken time for ourselves to sit through and figure this out, right? So we're going to follow the philosophy of the positive method, which I'm going to share here for you. So here's an exercise which I want you to do right after this session. Block 15 minutes on your calendar. Think of 3 people in your life who have really helped you succeed. And this could be, say, somebody in your college, like a professor, an advisor, or it could be your first boss when you were doing your internship, somebody who really helped you. Or this could be, a current professional or a personal contact who knows you better, who's seen you in action. And I love to keep it to my professional set of contacts because I know that my personal set of friends are like too kind to me sometimes. So I try to keep it to my professional contacts. In that way, I can get candid feedback that's actionable from a workplace or a business place standpoint. So the script that you're seeing is an example of what we need to do. So you think of 3 people, and then you start writing down the names. And think of a scenario where they really created an impact for you. All right, so here's an example. And this is a scenario from your perspective. Say, when I started at this job as a recent college grad with little experience, I appreciated everything you did for me. So I'm thinking of, somebody who was very early in my career, really helped me doing my job efficiently. And you give them, you write a reason as to what exactly did they do for you and how it created an impact. So this is a reflection exercise of your professional contacts that you would do to begin with. And in this example, we talk about you had a project and you were very anxious about it, and somebody really helped you calm the nerves, and with a dose of personal flavor, right? Where they took you to a local restaurant, they took you out for coffee that made you feel better about it. So think of an example where they really made a positive impact. And then what you would do is, after you write down 3 people, the 3 positive impacts in different aspects of your career journey or milestones, the impact they made for you, you start drafting a note. So you could mention, based on an article I read or based on this event I attended with Priyanka, I've been thinking about ways in which I could improve my public speaking skills. And I want to let you know, you've been a very important person in my journey with the kind of experience and the kind of wisdom you shared at the beginning of my whatever milestone it is, and appreciate them. And then have your request where you're telling them, I would love if you can share a few times where you've seen me making an impact. So this goes both ways, right? Where you're telling them the impact they've made for you in your career, and then you ask them in return as to some of the best instances of you, how they perceive you. So it's a two-way street, right? Where when you feel you're offering something for someone without even them asking for it, say, for example, like a LinkedIn recommendation, right? The other person feels so obliged to even respond back with another recommendation. So this is a reflection exercise which will help you understand how people are perceiving you. What are your strengths? Because sometimes we don't really understand our strengths. I could say I'm good at public speaking, but what aspects of public speaking? What topics of public speaking? So recently I was in a conversation with my boss, and he told me, Priyanka, you have a knack for managing complex projects, breaking it down into simple, user-friendly checkpoints and milestones. So I would love you to take leadership on this complex project that's coming in the pipeline. That's something that I didn't even realize about myself. I knew I was good at project management, but I didn't realize, the specific way in which my boss was seeing my impact. So these are examples that I want you to start, delving into and bringing them out from other people who have seen you from close quarters. So give me a yes if you are on board with me in terms of doing this challenge right after this session, where you're blocking your time for 15 minutes, writing down 3 people who have made impact in your life, and then requesting them by telling, hey, I appreciate you. Can you please tell me what my strengths are from your perspective? All right, I see so many yeses coming in. That's awesome. Rakia, Jamila, Angela, I'm so glad to see you're going to visualize and manifest this exercise. And here's what you also would be doing. At the end, I'm going to give you my social channels to connect. So you can keep me as your accountability buddy. Reach out to me and tell, hey, Priyanka, I did this exercise, and here are the 3 things I found out about me as to what my personal strengths are, based on which I'm going to position my epic personal brand. All right, I see a yes from Shantia. That's amazing. All right, let's go to the A part, the act part, right? And I'm quite sure now I see the drive within all of you. I'm sure you'll act on this. Yes, Angela has an amazing point. Sometimes even the negative experiences with people help you grow. Angela, and some of those learning experiences stick with you way better than some of the positive experiences. It might feel a little sensitive at that point in time, but when you look back, I feel those have been amazing growth moments for me personally as well. So that's a great point, Angela, on focusing on the negative experiences as well. All right, so A in Pacman, the second aspect, the second element is to act. Now you might then be thinking, okay, I have responses from my 3 contacts now that I have a sense of what my strengths are. And people could come back to you and say, you're good at project managing, or you're good at communicating user stories to people. You're good at marketing, whatever that could be. And once you have that, you at least have 2 or 3 core topics or areas where you could build your strengths as a thought leader. So the second question would be, okay, now I have that in place. Where do I get started? Because there's so much of information on social media. You have so many channels, be it Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatnot. So I just threw in some examples over here. So you have social media, you have a personal website that you can build to showcase your portfolio of work. Mine is priyankakomla.com. Take a look at it. It's still evolving, but that's how I position my personal brand through my own website, where I have complete control. The other aspect could be a LinkedIn blog, and you could make it very simple. A quick LinkedIn post. Albert is pretty good at it because we've been peers exchanging notes on this. So you could follow, people that you can relate to. Say, for example, if you're following me, I've been literally posting consistently for the last couple of weeks, I should say, where I pick and choose topics that resonate with me based on what's happening in the news, based on my personal strengths, the assessment that we just shared, and start writing your thoughts. It could be a simple 5 to 6 lines. You don't have to write long form essays. Simple topics where you throw in your thoughts on that particular topic and then wait for data points. So basically, you're looking at signals from people who engage with your content to see, is this sticking? Is this engaging? Is this resonating? And that's the reason I told you personal brand is evolving. Because I see on some posts, I have a lot of engagement. Say, for example, I did a post on breaking the bias for International Women's Day, I had around 10,000 views and hundreds of likes. Versus when you post something specific about, say, public speaking, if you see it on my LinkedIn feed, you'll find more articles of public speaking. The engagement would be considerably less as well. So I'm looking at data points to see what sticks with people. In that way, I can fine tune my personal brand going forward. Or here comes the fun part that you've all been looking for, is public speaking. So public speaking, the way I look at it is part of your personal brand. So if you're looking at enhancing your career visibility, if you are a working professional, or if you're looking at, say, raising funds, increasing awareness as a business professional, these are amazing channels. And I've personally hosted a podcast called Curryup Leadership, which focuses on spotlighting purpose-driven Asian leaders making an impact. Or, like Misha said, you could speak or moderate an upcoming Products by Women event as well. So there are several opportunities, be it with podcasts, be it with conferences, events like Products for Women, where people are looking for your wisdom. You have a story to tell. It's just that, as we did the poll earlier on, right? We just hold ourselves back because we feel we got to be the super perfect in terms of knowing exactly what we want to do. That's not the way personal branding or public speaking works. You put yourself out there with an ounce of confidence. You can use me as a little devil in your mind whenever you see or feel like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this. And that's when you would be like, Priyanka told me I need to step out and do this. Just do it. And you'll see amazing results. The way Misha and I met, I've seen Products for Women, and then I reached out to her saying, hey, Misha, you're doing an amazing job. Let me pitch this idea. Your audience would find it of value. That's how you make connections and grow. So don't wait for that picture perfect opportunity. Put yourself out there. If you're still scared about it, start a podcast like what I did. You're the own producer for the show. Put up a podcast, post it on YouTube, post it on podcasting channels. It's low cost. Nobody's going to see you. You can talk about a topic of interest, edit it, and put it out. So it's much more in control. And I don't see a downside to doing something like that, except that you'll have to put in consistent time and effort. So that could be a low cost effort based on my personal experience, which has led me to do 100 plus shows. And that's led me to be part of other podcasting shows as well, where they bring you as a subject matter expert or even as a podcast expert. So there are several avenues that will open up for your public speaking, for your personal brand. It's just that you have to try out different things, be it writing or be it if you want to use your voice, use a podcast or an event like Products for Women where you feel more comfortable. And then you will see organic growth and people pitching for you to be on their shows or their conferences. And you have to say, oh my goodness, I have too much going on. I might have to turn you down. And that happens a lot of times. All right, who's with me on this second element of Pacman? Are you guys still on board? Do we have to do a little shake and move to wake you up? Let's see, put it in the chat. If you're still with me, give a yes. I see those yeses coming in. That's amazing. All right, thanks for sticking with me. Talking about the C in Pacman, collaborate. Do you know what breed of horses these are? If anyone knows, put it in the chat. Can you guess these breed of horses? All right, 3, 2, 1, time's up. So these are Belgian draft horses. And these Belgian draft horses, okay, I see cyclist, okay, Clydesdale. Thanks, Angela. As far as I can recollect, these are Belgian draft horses. I'm not a horse expert, but based on the knowledge that I've gained so far. So these Belgian draft horses, each one of them can pull weight equivalent to 8,000 pounds. But if two horses get together, they can pull weight greater than 20,000 pounds. You see the math in there, right? One thing I've realized in my branding journey, personal public speaking journey, is collaborating with people. When you collaborate with people, right, it's a win-win for you. Say, for example, I'm collaborating with my Misha on this event, and I get a chance to be in front of her audience. She gets a chance to be in front of my audience when I'm promoting this event and the key takeaway. So it's a win-win that you see there, right? So find people with whom you can collaborate. Say, for example, you want to put together a blog post, and you're like, okay, Priyanka, I want to write about marketing, or I want to speak about marketing, but I'm not comfortable just doing it by myself. Find a buddy. Reach out to me saying like, hey, Priyanka, would you mind collaborating with me on this LinkedIn post? Or would you mind being with me on this panel for my podcast? In that way, I feel that I'm not the sole person who has to run the entire show, but I have a support system of people. And that's the reason I gave you the example of these Belgian draft horses. The more collaboration you do, the better, the stronger you are, the better you are, right? So collaboration is key. So always look for those opportunities, because at the end of the day, a single show is only going to take you to so much extent. Just like teamwork, right? If you want to grow bigger, you go in as a team, versus a solo walk is only going to get you so far. All right, so this is a fun aspect for M of Pacman, which is mindfulness. Now, put in the chat below, what does mindfulness mean to you? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Or if you have practiced mindfulness or do practice mindfulness, give me a yes. I would love to see, where does mindfulness fit into your own career journey or personal journey? Being present and intentional. That's very true. Here's a quote from Sheryl Sandberg. We cannot change what we are not aware of. And once we are aware, we cannot help but change. And as the chat clearly represents, being present and intentional, as Farida says, Angela says, awareness. Shulamat says, intentionality and awareness in the moment. Exactly. When you talk about building a personal brand or public speaking portfolio, right? The first thing we always think about is, oh my goodness, I need to write the next viral blog or put in the first viral podcast. But most of the time we fail to understand, and this is something that I've done for a very long period in my life, is being mindfulness of where you are and enjoying that journey. As the saying goes, right? You got to enjoy the journey and not just the destination, not just your moment of arrival. Mindfulness is a key habit that you need to have as part of your toolkit. And this could be in various forms. It could be a moment of reflection when you go through your narratives, when you go through your personal strengths analysis. It could be just deep thinking about, the past and the impact people have made in your life. It could be 10 minutes of yoga, 5 minutes of meditation, an afternoon walk, if you have pretty sunshine like what I had here in Washington, D.C. So mindfulness, as I mentioned, is a stackable habit that I want you to consider as part of your life journey. Again, this goes back to a little bit of philosophy in me, and this has worked well for me. When I start my day away from the social media noise, on days where I spend 5 to 10 minutes just for myself in silent meditation or a guided meditation, I find that I'm more productive, more calm, less anxious, less overwhelmed. And now you see all these different emotions, right, that we talked about in terms of what's holding you back in building a brand, what's holding you back from doing your first public speaking gig. And now you see the connection happening. Give me a yes if you see the connection happening, or if you plan to start inculcating mindfulness as part of your journey going forward. Albert says yes. Come on, let's see some yeses before we finish the rest of the elements of Pacman. Gina says great insights. Jamila says yes. Shantia says yes. All right, so that's mindfulness. Now, here's an interesting aspect. You might say, okay, Priyanka, I want to get into this personal brand journey. I'm going to collaborate with like-minded people. I know where to get started, be it a LinkedIn post, a blog. I'm going to make mindfulness an intentional part of my journey. And now you're like, okay, but how do I make this a successful journey for me? One thing I've realized as part of my career journey is having a hype group. A hype group could be, for women, it could be a sisterhood group where you have a support system. These are people who are invested in your success. For me, my Misha, I see her as my ally. I see Albert, who's part of this event here, as my ally, where I reach out to them and say, hey, here's a LinkedIn post about my thoughts on public speaking. What do you think about it? And if you have any thoughts, can you please share it with me or give the post some love and support? And without this kind of engagement and collaboration, it's hard to succeed in the social media world. We need to have allyship so that I'm invested in Naimisha's success. Naimisha is equally invested in my success. And it's so kind of Naimisha. She's an amazing person in terms of opening doors of opportunities beyond products for women. She'd be like, hey, Priyanka, if you find somebody of value in my network, let me know and I'm more than happy to connect. Where would you find people like these? Some people are so gifted like Naimisha, who are so generous with their time and their network. But if not, all you need is just go ahead and ask. Like I asked Albert saying, hey, I'm doing a personal branding webinar. Why don't you join me as a fellow personal branding expert? So we can share insights and learn from each other, as part of a community. And this helps you in your journey. I was talking about this live chat with Indra Nui and Payal, right? So this event was on Instagram where I had a chance to listen to their conversation. And Indra Nui and Payal emphasized on this point so specifically, because your journey, our journey, there could be days where it's so hard, where you would feel like, okay, Priyanka, I'm giving up. But then you need somebody else who tells you, no, Priyanka, you can do this. It's just a small blip. It's a small bump. When you put a post out there, say, for example, I've had my own experience with it. And if you've posted on LinkedIn or social media or an event where I'm speaking here, right, you might find less engagement sometimes. That doesn't mean that you have to take it personal. It just means that you need a strong support system who tell you, hey, Priyanka, that's just one topic, right? Maybe this topic isn't resonating with your audience. Maybe you just have to pivot and move on. That move on is a challenge for a lot of us. So if you have a supportive system of allies, you would see the bigger picture rather than just ruminating on that one small blip, which is not going to define who you are as a brand, who you are as a public speaker. All right, so let's see who's on board in terms of allies, who's ready to go ahead and find allies in your network. And these could be people like me and Naimisha, now that you've known both of us. And this could be, people on LinkedIn, say, for example, where you can go send a personalized invite and say, hey, I love you posting information on these topics. I would love to connect. And over a period of time, nurture the relationship. And then you find your hype tribe right there, like what Naimisha pointed out. So give me a yes if you're going to go and build your own hype tribe. Let's see who's going to get into action today. I see a lot of yeses. Angela says, okay, makes sense, but what if, other people copy your ideas? Angela, as an entrepreneur, you always feel like your idea is so close to you, but the moment you open it up, you'd feel that your idea evolves into something much better. And as an entrepreneur, it's a mindset shift which comes over a period of time. Because you know what, I hear a lot of venture capitalists, and this is based on a lot of venture capitalists I have had on my shows, as on my Curryup Leadership podcast, where they talk about it's not just the idea, right? It's about the execution of the idea. So if you believe in your execution capabilities, the wisdom that you can share on your idea, I think nothing should stop us from sharing that idea. Again, it's a personal preference, but that's something that I wanted to share as well. Thanks, Angela. And keep me posted on how that goes as well. So that brings us to the end, right? So the end in Pacman, the last element is you have all these amazing ideas, but you got to do it now, right? And Naimisha is right there waving to me saying, hey, Priyanka, we're done with it. And here's the last slide that I want to leave you with. Irrespective of your titles, irrespective of your tracks, uh, that's the train track that I was standing on as part of my hiking journey some time ago. You can have a personal brand. You don't need to be at a certain level with a certain title to have your personal brand or to go out and speak your story. So in the interest of time, given we are at the end of this session, I know we wanted to leave some time for Q&A. I wanted to leave you with two things. One is Pacman. You see it, right? I know you're on this left side of the trajectory. I want you to go all the way, facing all the different obstacles you might encounter, but now with the Pacman philosophy of creating a positive highlight reel, acting, C for collaborate, M for mindfulness, A for allies, and for now, you're going to reach the other side with success. So the one resource that I want to leave you with is, if you're interested in a masterclass in building a personal brand, go to this link and put in your information. And when there's an upcoming cohort where I hold special classes, I'd be more than happy to send you information as well as 5 templates that have helped me embrace public speaking for my career growth. So I'll send you that exclusive information. So just go to this link. It's a bit.ly link for personal brand tech, and we'll also drop it in the chat. With that being said, thank you so much for being part of this session, and connect with me. Those are my channels, my website. You can find my podcast, Curryup Leadership, on all your favorite podcasting platforms, and connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Over to you, Naimisha.
Priyanka, thank you so much for this really, really amazing event. And I just want to say thank you for your time, and everything that you shared today is like super actionable, super useful. And I think one key takeaway for me, I really recall like when I started community building and I started speaking on podcasts, and I really feel like this is a muscle, and like any other skill, the more you put yourself out there, the more you practice, you get better at. So for everyone who's here with us, I think my personal takeaway is that put yourself out there, get those opportunities, get in front of people. And what's the worst that can happen? You're just going to be in front of people and you'll make a mistake or two and you'll learn from it and you'll move on. But with that, and while people are dropping their questions in the chat box, I know you probably have to go, and you mentioned this in advance, but I want to ask you this one question that I
Actually,
have.
I'm going to make time.
Okay,
So go
awesome.
ahead. We can go till 7:30.
Okay, perfect. So, I wanted to start off by asking you, through your experience with like public speaking, what has been the impact of your public speaking journey so far? Like, if you can share some high level metrics and like, or something that, a milestone that you hit because of your public speaking journey, I think that would be amazing to know.
For me, a personal milestone, Naimisha, is how many people get impacted by my personal journey. For example, I was speaking with a group of women who are restarting their careers here in the US as immigrants. It's with a group called Immigrant Academy, where I was invited as a visiting faculty. And two things I wanted to share. One is, how did they invite me? Was because I put myself out there on Instagram, where I'm focused on sharing my insights on how do you communicate with confidence at workplace. So this group wasn't part of my ideal demographic, but then I was sharing wisdom on things that have worked well for me on communicating with confidence in workplace. And as an immigrant woman, some of the challenges you would face from a cultural standpoint as well. And then, Anjali Nair, who's the founder of the Immigrant Academy, she told me, Priyanka, it's a mentoring program that she's doing. When I decided to put in this mentoring program, you were the first person that came to my mind. You see the personal brand, right? I wasn't targeting the demographic, but the skill sets that I was sharing my wisdom about made absolute sense because these are transferable. So that's the milestone that I would say, Naimisha. The second aspect being, when you hear people who are hearing your stories, they find you relatable. Because when we see someone on social media, right, you see the picture perfect journey that they have, but then you don't understand, hey, Priyanka went through some of these struggles that I'm going through. So it's much more relatable for me. And more than the quantitative metrics where, I've spoken at 100 plus conferences over the last 5 years, for me, it's this personal impact where somebody leaves a note saying, hey, Priyanka, your story created an impact. And, a humble brag was, one of the participants came back to me and told, Priyanka, I want to be like you. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so kind of them to say that, right? So things like these make me feel that's more impactful. Yeah, I would leave it there.
I love that. And you're absolutely right. And I think, oftentimes people don't see the amount of work that really goes behind really building yourself up to that point. I still recall a lot of times where I've like done an event like I just mentioned where, I kind of went in not prepared, thinking I'm going to wing it, not knowing that, people who actually go and like do these events. This is very early on when I started like building out the community, and I felt really bad, and I realized, after speaking to some of my mentors, that there's so much preparation that goes beyond them, and like the amount of work that really goes in when they are presenting at conferences, or like all of that. So I love that. I love that you share all of that, so thank you. And I think one question that came in is about like how any tips for getting comfortable with being more visible and on social media. And I think I love this question because a lot of times I feel like super judged, and I'm so like cautious about what I'm putting out there on like reels or on stories, or usually I'll share it with like select group of people through the functionality on like Instagram. Any thoughts there?
I should give you a fun story behind this. It's actually a great question, I should say. When I started on Instagram, I started late on Instagram because I always was in the mindset that as a professional, you got to be on LinkedIn. That was my primary network. But then I found all these, cool set of my friends who would be on Instagram and post like amazing stuff behind the scenes. And I remember I was part of this fitness group, and they would do a group selfie at the end of every session. And I used to be the shy kid in the group where I would just say like, I don't want to be part of this image on Instagram. Please don't tag me. And from there, now if you go to Instagram, as you know, I'm Misha, I've been doing like reel challenges for the last 30, as part of the 30-day reel challenge. I'm halfway through it. So it takes a period of evolution, and it has to come from within you. But think about the pros and cons. And this is based on one of the articles I read on Harvard Business Review. So say, for example, when you want to apply for a promotion, right? If you're so focused on just the pros, or if you're so focused on the cons, you're going to get too overwhelmed or too overexcited. But if you focus on both the pros and cons, like evaluate the benefits, what if it works, what if it doesn't work, you'll feel that you're in a much grounded state of mind to go ahead and try it out. And you'll start thinking less about the fear of other people judging you. So I would say it's an evolution process. So be kind to yourself. It's not going to be the end of the world if you post something. I'm quite sure you'll use your judgment when you're posting something that you're comfortable with, but don't overthink. Once you post it, just leave it. Wait for the data signal to see what feedback you're getting from people, and focus on just the pros and cons. Whenever you feel like, oh, Priyanka, I'm too shy, I'm not confident if I want to speak on this controversial topic, start with something that you're comfortable with. And over a period of time, you'll become more confident in terms of handling maybe a controversial topic. As an example, the reel that I posted today, Misha, on Instagram, you guys can go check it out. Usually my reels are like very professional, like doing this, and it's very educating, informative. But I've started getting comfortable doing entertainment oriented reels where I was just swinging today in my kids' playground. And I was like, I kept thinking twice and asking my spouse, should I post this? What kind of a message would it send to people? And he was like, just do it. Why do you overthink it so much? It's not going to be the end of the world. People will get to see the fun side of you and they'll appreciate it. So I think we are some of our best critics and worst critics as well. So go ahead and just do it, and find allies like me who would go cheer for you on that post, and that will give you some confidence that people validate my judgment. if you feel that could help you become much more comfortable. I'm more than happy to be that cheerleader for you.
I love that. I love that advice. And really, visibility is equal to credibility, right? Like the more you put
Exactly.
yourself out there, the more you're out there, the more the algorithm gods bless you, the more credibility you're going to have. And really start small with things that you feel most comfortable with. I mean, we're at a time where brands are blowing up on TikTok and Instagram, people making millions of dollars just by being present out there. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Go out there, put yourself out there, have some fun. It's okay if you make a typo. I have typos in my Instagram all the time.
Right,
You know?
right. We all
um,
understand, right? It
exactly.
doesn't have to be picture perfect.
Yep. So, Priyanka, I guess one question that I had prepared was, what are some common public speaking mistakes to avoid? Like, what's something that you usually see, or do you have any tips around, like, or any hacks as such to kind of wing any upcoming event, whether it's like with posture or phrases or something that you really look for, prepare before you go into any sort of event.
All right. I should share experiences from today's event, right, Misha? So as Sophia was talking, realistic tips, right? Let's make it more realistic. Um, couple of things. Again, this is based on experience. I didn't start from what I'm talking, right? It took me a few years to just experiment and figure out based on feedback I was receiving from people. One is the power of pause. So this is something that's often overlooked when you're doing public speaking. And this helps both ways. When you're pausing, it gives you that moment to think. So you're not losing your train of thought. And for the audience, the power of pause really makes them feel, okay, looks like Priyanka is going to say something important, right? So they're going to lean in more and start thinking about, okay, what are you going to say? So that develops a moment of curiosity. So power of pause, that's one thing. And two is having a smile on your face. That reduces a lot of anxiety for you personally and for people, right? I've seen you, Misha, with a wonderful smile throughout this event, and that makes it feel relaxing. As a guest speaker, I know that Misha is going to make this a very chilled out session, very interactive session. And that kind of calms nerves for all of us in the session, right? Versus if I'm like, um, you know, too focused on just delivering this presentation to the absolute T, then it takes off that fun, relaxed feeling. So pause, smile, what else? Hand gestures. It's very hard, especially in the Zoom environment, because I'm more of a person who uses her hands a lot when I'm speaking. This is something that I'm still learning, but being mindful of where your hands are going as you're in the Zoom world, right? So that's something that you could focus on. But overall, these are from the aesthetic perspective, but they go a long way in helping you deliver an effective presentation. But content is key. Having a strong presentation, and as you mentioned, Naimesha, the key is to practice in such a way that you're confident of the content that you want to share. And I think that'll just wrap it into a beautiful session that just flows seamlessly. So I would say pause, smile, hand gestures, and content. Those would be the four tips that I would give.
I love that. And I think this is so actionable, even if someone's kind of going in for an interview. The other thing I'll just add on is like perhaps consider like recording yourself. I mean, there's nothing wrong with recording yourself, practicing in front of the mirror, or asking your spouse to give you feedback. I've been told sometimes, like by my husband, like when I go in for an interview, you sounded so boring during this this event or this about you introduction. So please, like, don't hesitate to seek feedback. I think it's really important for people to kind of give you feedback and put yourself out there. And I know we're at time, so I'll leave you with one really really important question. For anyone who's really putting themselves out there and very serious about like their speaker journey, how do you decide what your speaker rate should be? Are you able to like share some insights here?
You know, this is an important question, especially I see a lot of women over here. For the first 5, 6 years, all my speaking engagements were for free because I was looking at how do I build my brand visibility. But now when I look back, I feel there's a lot of awareness in terms of public speaking as a career for some of us or an important source of revenue or your business model. So the average rates that I'm seeing that you should be charging, and this is something that I experiment with as well, is even starting from your first gig, you can charge as much as $500 all the way to $3,000, $5,000, depending on where you are in terms of your public speaking journey, as well as the kind of signature content you're able to develop and pitch to your clients, be it corporate organizations, conference organizers, event organizers. So go out there and put a value to your sweat equity. Public speaking doesn't always have to be for free, and look for paid speaking opportunities as part of your hustle.
Love that. And then one last question before we leave. It's all about resources. Do you have any recommendations for books, people to follow on social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, or anything else, podcasts, coaches, mentors? Would love to, get that information before we start closing out.
That's amazing. Actually, for me, it's an evolving set of people that I try to follow and get insights. One of the things that I always joke about is my role models are virtual. Like, I don't get to meet them, but it's just I follow interesting people. And Indra Nooyi is an amazing resource because you look at the kind of professional, thoughtful messages she's putting out there to continue to position her brand. So you can follow her on Instagram to see how she's positioning herself on Instagram with her book. So she'll be an amazing resource to look at. And there's also Payal, who's the founder of ClassPass. I like the way how she's structuring her content and positioning her personal brand. And you could always follow me, follow Misha as well. And I do offer programs depending on the kind of target demographic that I'm looking at. So follow me, Priyanka Komla, on LinkedIn and Instagram specifically, where I'll be sharing a lot more resources. Could be books, could be links to other people out there. So follow me there, as you can stay tuned for more upcoming posts on resources specifically.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Priyanka. And any last thoughts or closing thoughts or any advice for everyone who's tuned in today?
This has been amazing. And I and Misha wanted to make sure this was interactive. So we're so glad that each one of you participated. And I hope you found this session valuable. I would appreciate if you can connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, and then drop me a note as well on either of these channels, Priyanka Komla, on your feedback, what resonated with you, and most importantly, how can I be of support to you? I would really love to see that.
Thank you, Priyanka. And with that, we're at time. We're actually over time. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We will be sharing all the information via our Slack, via an email, and on our YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us everywhere. We're everywhere now. So tag us on Instagram if you enjoyed this session too. Well, that's it from me. Have a great Wednesday evening and the rest of the week.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. And Misha, would you mind holding for a quick moment?
Do you want to break out to a different room?
Oh, yes, that's possible. Happy to as well.
Cool. Let's do it.